Welcome to the Midnight Matinee with your host and hostess, Robert and Angi Curtis.
Welcome, everyone, back to the Midnight Matinee.
Yep.
And here we are with another 31 Days of Halloween movie reviews. This one is the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
No, that was the 17th
The
night.
17th night
17th night.
of the 31 Nights of Halloween.
So this film follows a self-proclaimed agnostic who acts as a defense counsel representing a parish priest accused of negligent homicide after performing an exorcism. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is based on the real-life story of Annalise Michael, a German college student and devout Catholic who died during an exorcism in 1976. Doctors said her seizures and visions were caused by epilepsy. Her family and their bishop believed it was demonic possession. So,
All right.
So this kind of plays out as a courtroom drama, basically seeing flashbacks of what happened.
It's told. This story is really, it's like three perspectives. There are three stories because you have the backstory of the exorcism that happened in the past. Then you have the courtroom drama that's playing out in real time, and then you have the defense attorney's life and what she's experiencing behind the scenes. So it's basically one story that's told through the lens of three different perspectives, basically, because she has the attorney has a different kind of view of what's going on. So as you're discovering the story, then it plays in flashbacks of the actual exorcism and her college life predating the exorcism. And then you have the story of the courtroom drama that plays out through it. And then by the courtroom drama unfolding, then that's why you have the interspersed back and forth between the two attorneys, which I think really does the plot progression in this is really good writing, because the defense attorney who's defending the priest is an agnostic person who doesn't believe in anything, and then the prosecuting attorney is a practicing Catholic. So it's that dynamic plays out, and then both of their desires to win or a battlefield going on there, and then you have the priest who doesn't care whether he gets sentenced or not. He wants to tell the story, and the diocese doesn't want him to testify. They want it to play out in the court and then get out of the limelight as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care if he goes to jail for the rest of his life, as long as he gets to tell her story. Right? Yeah. So that's basically the premise of the show. And I once again, I hate to say it, but the actress that plays Emily Rose in this is amazing.
That's Jennifer Carpenter, who was in the Dexter series.
Yeah.
Who played the sister for. Yeah, and a lot of those, they even said, like, there's some physical, all exorcism has the weird
all the modern
contortion.
Exorcisms have the bent over backwards thing going on, and they do that in this.
And she did that without any, help, I guess. Yeah. Some of the stuff that
right, they didn't have the green suit guy hold her back like they do in the other one. So that's and it pays off. Like there's a lot of scenes in this where she's like doing these kicks like up in the air and landing on her knees over and over again, and it looks unnatural, like the way that they did it. I'm sure that there was some kind of harness or springs or some kind of rope work that made it happen, but she's really doing it. So it pays off. It pays off, especially in a lot of the scenes where she's possessed. It's overly saturated. Like the wall behind her bed is painted like a dark red color, and there's like a green paint that's underneath of it, and where her claw marks in the paint reveal like this lighter green color, which is kind of like a psychological way of showing like she's becoming more of a
and you go through the whole
darker
thing.
Person.
Kind of like, well, is this psychological? Is this illness? Is this mental illness? Is this epilepsy? Or is it something more? And you kind of go back and forth. Like They want you to kind of make up your own mind about it.
The prosecuting attorney does a really good job of that too, because he he presents witnesses that are, physicians and they're psychiatrists, and they tell you basically what you're seeing, and then the director has a scene placed in there without the CGI and without the special effects and everything, and then you see the people that she's like yelling at, and when you saw it from her perspective, they were like black-eyed demon people, but then when you see it now, they're not. They're just like regular people, like, what is this lady yelling at me for?
Yeah.
Right? And it works with great effect, because when they're telling you that it's a psychosis, and then they show you what it would look like if it were a psychosis, then it puts that doubt in your mind, and then you're in the courtroom drama, and it's the back and forth, and you're kind of like, okay, so maybe this isn't a, horror movie, It
was definitely more of a psychological thriller, because they didn't rely on a whole lot of, gore or special effects of any of that type. I mean, it was definitely like, oh my God, what is going on?
Right, and it pays off. I really like this movie, and this is one of the rare instances on our list where we actually went back and rewatched it before we gave our review, because it's been several months since we've seen it. So we watched it again and then came right down here and filmed this review, so it's fresh in our minds. And I have to say, I really like this movie. It's probably about the fifth time I think I've seen it. And every time I notice something a little bit different in it, and this time was the same too. I really like the lady, the future war cult lady from the Destiny, the actress who does the voice of the robot in Destiny, plays a character that's deposed in this trial, and I really liked her portrayal of that person, because she's like, it's not that she was possessed, or that we have to believe that she was possessed. We just have to believe that she believed she was possessed, and that was what was making her sick, right?
Well, the mind is a very powerful thing,
Exactly.
and we've talked about this before. I mean, if you think you're sick, your mind can make you sick.
Oh, yeah. And that whole character, that's the only part of this whole movie she's in. She shows up in court, she gives her thing, and then leaves. But that portrayal stays with you through the entire thing, because it puts that doubt in your mind. You're like, well, is it possession, or are we talking about the drugs that she was on, or is it because the premise of this lady's argument is that she was on this Gambutrol, and then that suppresses her ability to have the aha moment that lets her get rid of the possession, right? And the Gambutrol was keeping her from having that breakthrough, the psychological breakthrough of her trauma. And then eventually, because she couldn't have that breakthrough, then she ended up passing away because of the prolonged
suffering that she was
suffering of the possession. So I really appreciate. I don't know who cast her in that role, but it was spot on perfect.
I thought the movie was I thought the plot was well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
I personally enjoy courtroom dramas.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that this was a horror movie, but also a courtroom drama where they were playing out, a belief system.
Right. And I like the back and forth between the father and his lawyer, and then his lawyer and then the other lawyer, because it's like, she doesn't want the father to testify because it'll hurt her career.
Yeah.
And she doesn't think that she could win by doing that. But then the other attorney wants him on the stand so that he can ask him all of these questions about, And
they were a very religious country folk people.
They lived on a farm. They had horses. They had a big barn. There's a whole barn scene in this.
And the father was, he was of the local parish and stuff like that.
Right. And that's kind of the whole thing about possession in the first place, is it's people that are really devout, is from the other channel that we do, if you've ever heard of us talk about possession and how demons work and that sort of thing, that's one of the things, is like Stigmata is a thing that affects people who are extremely devout, right? It's never somebody who's not devout. You know what I mean? That has that kind of the stigmatic wounds on their hands. So that they play that in this too, where in the end they revealed that she had stigmata, and then the lawyer says, well, maybe she just grabbed a hold of the fence and cut her hand.
The barbed wire fence. Yeah.
So
I mean, I thought it was, and the lawyer, played by Laura Linney, was very driven, like, to win at all costs.
Right.
And there's a moment where she realizes what she had, in another case, had done.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like...
She had acquitted a murderer and got him completely off, and then he reoffended once he was off, and that comes out in the middle of the trial where she's like,
well, that's kind of like, what do they call it, a crisis,
right,
of her own faith.
Yeah. And she's thinking about that, like, well, what if I do that again? And then this guy, and that's when she puts him on the stand, and then he basically says he doesn't care if he goes to jail.
Yeah.
His whole thing is to get her story out, right? So, yeah, I liked it a lot. I really, really like this movie. And it came out in a time where one of these was coming out like every year. The Exorcism of blank.
Yeah, I think that there was a movie about the Annalise Michael that came out around the same time, which obviously is a similar. Yeah. But I don't know if I've ever seen that one or not, to be honest.
If you go to the Veritas Project channel, we covered demonic possession on there, and I actually played the tape of the real Annalise Michael.
That's right.
So you could, if you were curious and you wanted to hear what it actually sounded like, I played it in that video. So you can, it was not good.
I have long, as somebody who believes in the paranormal, I have always wondered if people with mental illness, like schizophrenia, or who hear voices, is it truly mental illness? Or is it possible that these people are so open that they are hearing stuff that normal people can't?
Right, like your brain filters it out.
Yeah, are they really hearing, like, say, people from the other side, or people who are stuck in between worlds? I mean, that's always been my, wondering about that.
Yeah.
And how do you tell the difference? Yeah, and this is kind of like that same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what goes along the lines of this story, is that, is she mentally ill? Is she possessed? What is the going back and forth here? So. Yep.
Well, we didn't discuss before, but I'm personally thinking it's probably a 4 or a 5 in my opinion. I thought the movie was really well done.
I would give this one a Hell's Bells, in my opinion, because of the Exorcism blank of movies, of the dozen or so that there are of in this genre. This one is the standout in those, right? So I would say in its field of exorcism / trial movies, that this is the one. Like, if you were going to watch any of the other exorcism movies, I would skip all of those and watch this one, because it's not just demons, it's not just the exorcism, it's also a courtroom drama, and it's also this dynamic of the lawyers, and it fires on all cylinders as far as I'm concerned. I really, really like this movie.
Okay, so we'll put up our thing. And we're going to give it a Hell's Bells, which is a 5 out of 5 on our scale, which is a true masterpiece of horror, sends shivers through your soul, claws at your sanity, and lingers long after the credits roll.
Yep.
Yeah.
We haven't given anything a Hell's Bells in a long time.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like some of the movies we've been watching are stinkers. And I was really surprised by this one, because it had the ability to be a stinker. Like, because this formula we've seen multiple times before, and we've seen multiple times after. Like this,
and we'll see it in the future.
And it's a, what do they call that? It's a
trope.
It's a trope of this genre, is this exact story, because this was really popular when it happened. Because it was right after The Exorcist. It was in that era. So.
Well, to be honest, when this was all going out, in the back of my brain, I'm thinking, which is ironic, I'm thinking, what if there was some kind of trauma that caused this? You know, her being unable to get up out of bed. Mm. You know, and I was thinking, is this an essay that's going to come out? It never does come out or anything like that. No. But
they don't ever go that way.
That was one of my first thoughts. I'm like, well, maybe there was some kind of trauma. Because she went away, left her family, went to college.
Right, and that's when it started.
And she started having a complete psychotic breakdown.
Right. So, yeah, you don't know. I mean, they never really talked about that in this at all.
Yeah.
And in the actual Annalise Michael, I don't think that they discussed it either in that, really. They didn't give a whole lot of her background in that story. Mm. But like I said, on the Veritas project, we covered that one. So if you wanted to...
Yeah, go for...
If you wanted to hear it...
Real documented cases of demonic possession. Yeah. We're only movies over here.
Right.
Some of them, though, they did say that this was inspired by a true event.
Yeah.
So what else we got going? What are we watching right now? We started watching that slasher movie, but we decided to pitch it to the garbage.
It was terrible.
Flushed it.
Don't watch that. I've been on a tear of late 70s horror movies, and I watched Mortuary.
That's right, with a young Bill Paxton.
Yeah, it had Bill Paxton who plays the villain in it.
And he is a youngin'.
He knew that was his first, credited role, and he went for it in that movie. He is over the top. It is so good.
I didn't see most of it.
If you watch it just for Bill Paxton's performance, it's a winner. And because everybody, and he isn't billed in it, which is the worst part of it. Bill Paxton is not in the credits for it.
Really?
Yeah, he shows up of the 8 actors that are titled in the titles.
Oh,
he does not show up in there. He is like the 10th or 11th person, and I tell you, he steals that movie from every other actor.
Now, when did that movie come out?
82.
Because I thought my first time I ever saw him was After Dark or whatever.
Oh, Near Dark.
Near Dark.
Yeah, that was 87, I think. 87
we
or 88.
We were discussing that earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's older. He's in his 20s in that. He's in his late teens in this.
We watched I fell asleep in the middle of it. But what were we watching? It was called Shockwaves.
Oh yeah, Shockwaves. You ever seen that one? It's
Now that one is definitely going back a while.
Yeah.
Because it's got Peter Cushing.
It's 77, I think, 77 or 78.
And it involves Nazis.
Yeah, it's the basic trope of that movie is that the Nazis had taken dead soldiers who died on the battlefield and then gave them some sort of treatment so they can live forever, and then released them into the battlefield to do heinous stuff. And then the war ended, and this guy who was in charge of them fled, the other Nazis had, and they went after him basically, and their ship ran aground on this island, and he was hiding on this island for years, and then they slowly have been searching for him basically. And then this our lovable band of travelers accidentally beached their boat on the sandbar because they almost run into the wreck of the ship that carried them there.
Which is one of my favorite things.
Right, that's one of my favorite tropes too.
To think that there's really ships out there that
they're just floating
along with nobody manning them.
And basically these zombie soldiers come out at night looking for victims, and sometimes during the daytime. And I had last time I had seen it was when it was on HBO.
You had saw it before.
Yeah, I saw it when I was little, and that's why I wanted to rewatch it. Because a lot of times I found that movies that I didn't think were that good when I was too young to be watching those
12.
movies. I later watched them as an adult, and there was something that was a little too adult going on that I didn't get when I was a kid, and I didn't think that it was that good. And now as an adult, when I rewatch it, then it clicks of what was going on, and you're like, oh.
There's a lot of times that'll happen. There'll be something I'll watch, I'll be like, I did not completely, from my child eyes, did not see that.
Just glazed over what it was, and you're like,
my adult eyes.
I don't get it. And then, but as an adult, you watch it and you're like, oh, I get it now. So, yeah, that's
he's
pretty
been
much.
making great use of his Shudder.
Yeah.
Because you pay for it,
Yeah.
and he wants to make sure that he uses
So I've been going
well,
back.
then when we're halfway to Halloween,
Yeah.
halfway to Halloween.
So we're gonna
They have actually a lot of good movies on there right now,
on
which
Shudder.
they
Yeah,
do not have in the month of October.
Right. As soon as you get to the end of September, Shudder loses about 90% of its movies.
Yeah.
And it's down to just absolute garbage until October's over with, and then through some sort of witchcraft, it all just pops right back in. Like, all the networks just gobble up all of the spooky movies and put them on their lineup, and then poor Shudder's just left with nothing because they don't have enough money to outbid the big ones. And then once it's gone, then they come back, and then they're blah blah blah. You know, they got all their
Shudder's
filled back
tied to AMC.
They are now. But AMC still does that to them. Well, they'll yank stuff out of their catalog and put it on AMC Plus, and then Shudder's like, well, I got like 5 movies to play, during Halloween, which is supposed to be their big time.
Yeah, it's kind of like what do they call that? Not intuitive or whatever.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah. Scary Movie Channel that's supposed to have all the scary movies doesn't have anything
during Halloween when you want to watch them. They're all gone.
Now, we, on the other hand, though, 365.
Everybody gobbles them up and locks them behind a paywall for Halloween so they can milk that cow for as much as they can get. And it's terrible.
Yes.
But our favorite Halloween movies were most of them in public domain anyway at this point. Like the Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, the things we grew up on.
Yeah, and then we have the Night of the Demons and other stuff on tape or on DVDs. So
yeah,
we can circumvent the system a little bit.
Yeah, and if I can't, the fun thing is like trying to guess because when I'm setting up the 31 days of Halloween, trying to find to make it easier, and you guys, anyone who's watched our little shorts saying this is the movie tonight,
right?
I literally go through and find out what streaming services it's on. But the problem is, if I'm doing it in late September, there's no guarantee October 1st.
Once that rolls over into October, then the whole list changes because everybody gobbles them up.
And then I'm like trying to track down either a VHS copy or
we go to the store and buy a physical
DVD
media
or all sorts of.
We go and buy our physical media.
Yes, he's a big fan of physical media.
You can't edit a DVD that I've had for 20 years.
Unless it's the Mandela effect.
Yeah, right.
But that's for the other channel.
That's the other channel, right?
I'm surprised they haven't made a movie about the Mandela effect yet, or if there is, I haven't heard about it.
I haven't either.
But
that'd be a good one. You know what would?
I sometimes feel like that though. I'm like, today I felt like I was in deja vu like several times today, and I was like, I don't know why.
That's a good premise for a movie. If there's somebody from Hollywood watching, you have a lovable character like Ryan Reynolds, right? And he is playing 2 roles. Right? He's the guy from the 1988 timeline, and he's the guy from our timeline, live at the same time. And then it switches back and forth between the different worlds of the Mandela effect, right? So you see the one where Mandela died back in the 80s, the one where he didn't die in the 80s, or the Berenstain, right? All of those tropes of the Mandela effect play out in 2 different worlds simultaneously. So it cuts back and forth between the guy who lived in the 1988 timeline and then never diverged, and then the guy who's living in the now timeline like we are, that forked off of it. And then that would be funny. And then you know what you could do as your hook at the end, you could show that there was a nuclear war in 1988, and then that's why the timeline forked, and then that character is just living in a dead timeline.
Well, you think about it, we are children, we are Generation X people.
Yeah.
And so we lived in a time where we thought at any moment,
Oh, yeah.
There was a movie that came out, was it 1984, 83, the day after? The day after, that was about a nuclear explosion. And that's, I know that our parents had to, they hide under the desk and but that movie scared the hell out of me.
Right.
Because, you're thinking, well, this guy, President Reagan, he could be pushing the button, or Bush, or, any of this could happen at any time. I mean, this was like the Cold War, you're thinking like the Rocky IV movie,
Or how easy, well, because in their generation, it was like the duck and cover, you were afraid of fallout, like the nuclear bomb would go off and then it would spread radiation everywhere. But in our generation, it was being scorched from the face of the planet. It wasn't fallout, it was just being obliterated by it.
Like all that was left of you was a shadow on the wall, kind of
holding
thing.
the fence like in T2. Ah! You know what I mean? Like that is.
Well, and I wonder if that's why we're very cynical. I mean, we lived through that.
Yeah, any second it could have.
Second, it's like
you see
you
that
could be
flash
just
of light,
obliterated.
and that was it, right?
And the movies didn't help because
Right.
that was a very common theme.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived through how many movies? It's a wonder with all the disaster movies that either came out on screen or came out on miniseries, like that,
like Poseidon Adventure,
or like that
the
movie,
Towering Inferno.
Towering Inferno. Like, this is why I don't want to stay. Stay in hotels way out because what if there was a fire?
Yeah. I asked one time because when I was in the Marines, we had to go. We were on an aircraft carrier, and they give you like a debrief, right, where the ship's maintenance, the bosun mates come in and they talk to you about, what your job is in combat. Like you have to do this, and you're also a part of the ship, right? So, just for shits and grins, I asked the guy who is actual, PhD ship maintenance person, how realistic is it that the ship could flip upside down and then you would have to like find your way out? And he's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I was like, had you not seen the Poseidon Adventure?
Oh my god,
because
that was like
that's the whole
regular
plot of that movie, is that the ship flipped upside down and they had to find some way to get out of it. He's like, ships don't no.
They can't.
It'll break in half before it flips over. I was like, all right then.
Well,
I feel much better
they
about
said
it.
What happened with the Titanic? Broke in half. But
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a wonder we are like serious. I guess we are sometimes seriously messed up. The things, and there's no cameras that were there for us.
right, yeah. In our generation, we didn't
There
have
was
a
no
camera in our pocket.
iPhones, yeah.
Recording everything.
There was no
that happened.
internet life. I mean, the things that you do.
There's no TikTok back then, man.
Sometimes I look back, like I was thinking about, like I used to climb trees and take my bicycles over jumps and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like how did and we didn't have helmets.
No,
So I mean, how the hell did I survive?
Helmet or something like that. Like there was no such thing as a bicycle helmet back then.
I mean, I was the kid that would come home covered in dirt, and Dad would say, "Oh, that's kids smell," because we were kind of rank. I mean, but we enjoyed.
I remember I broke a hockey helmet one time when I was a kid. That's how unsupervised we were as children. I jumped my bicycle off the side of a barbecue grill and was completely out of control, and I hit a tree with my hockey helmet and broke the plastic on my CCM hockey helmet.
I had something similar happen. I went off on a driveway and I misjudged and I hit a concrete set of steps by the sidewalk, flew over my bike and into the yard. And I'm like, almost hit a tree. I mean, the fact that I made it through childhood is amazing. I mean, I've got a barbed wire where I went with a horse, and through a tree. I fell off a horse in full gallop,
Right.
But
well,
anyway, we did
reel it back.
Reel it back. Okay. So, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, we give a 5 out of 5. Hell's Bells. We're still, if there's a movie you want to recommend, please put it in the comments. You know.
We still owe that kid the
I know.
Master of Disguise review. We never did it.
Yeah.
I felt bad.
Turtle. Yeah, I look like a turtle now. I got like, hey, look, I'm a floating head.
Yeah.
But
so, anyways, I think we're going to close it out. We've already gone long enough.
yeah.
So, I don't know how long this is. 20-something minutes, I can see on the counter. 28.
27 minutes. That's about average for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we keep looking to see if there's any good movies coming out. Nothing. They're tempting, but they're not enough to push us to go to the movies. Because going to the movies is,
it's so tedious anymore. Like people are terrible.
Yeah, people are terrible. I love the fact that you can pick her seats, because I remember one time I was going to go see one. I think it was the second or third Jurassic Park, and I went with a friend who I had never been to the movies before, and she made the comment. I'm like, we got to get there 30 minutes early because this is back before you could pick your seats, And I'm like, I want to be at the center seat in the stadium seating with the bar in front of me, so there's nobody sitting in front of me. I can put my legs on the bar.
Yeah.
And she's like, I never knew you were so militant about going to the movies.
I can't stand when somebody's right in front of you and they just yak and they have they're playing on their phone, they're doing everything except watching the movie.
Yeah.
And it just ruins it, because we like to pay attention to movies. We like to be in that moment watching the movie and paying attention to what happens because we're movie people, and most of the people just could not care less. They just want to be out of their house for 2 hours and tell their friends that they saw a movie, and they're not paying attention at all.
Well, like Bob said before, I mean, we have a dual recliner, with like we have our own little movie theater with
we live in a
sound bars.
We have a tiny home and we sit 4 feet away from a 65-inch.
I'm gonna go blind.
Television. So sometimes you watch a movie, you gotta turn your head to see what's going on. So we have a theater in our house, but it's nice to have that experience where you have all of the big speakers and the
surround sound and the Dolby
IMAX and all that stuff. So we still go out.
We go out.
Yeah. So if you guys see something, there's a horror movie coming out and you want us to go review it or whatever, let us know and we'll try to head out there.
Yeah, we saw Hard Eyes is already on Prime and all that.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast these things go to, because back in the day you'd be like,
oh, it'd be like a year before
I gotta wait
came
6 to 8 months before it comes out on DVD if you miss it. Anyway, reel it back. So we will catch you next time on
the Midnight Matinee.
Midnight.
Goodbye, everybody.
Here's Todd.
You've been watching The Midnight Matinee, brought to you by the Veritas Project. So when the clock strikes 12, grab your tickets for the next episode of The Midnight Matinee.